Goaltenders, we've certainly had some fun talking about the Conn Smythe Trophy. We talked about the history of the Conn Smythe Trophy, who was named after, first years it was won. We talked about all the goaltenders that have won the Conn Smythe Trophy, remarkable achievements with all the goaltenders. We talked about it. We have 6 Hall of Famers, 2 more Hall of Famers to join them. All just great stats, all just great facts and statistics, everything just great. But you can't talk about goaltending, you can't talk about the Conn Smythe without talking about one person in particular. That would be the legend himself, Patrick Roy. Arguably the greatest goalie to ever put pads on. Let's talk about some of the stuff that Patrick Roy did. The only person, not just goaltender, the only person to win 3 Conn Smythe trophies. That's right, 3 Conn Smythe trophies he won. Here's another fact with Patrick Roy. He won with 2 different teams. He won 2 with Montreal and won 1 with Colorado. Then, on top of that, he won his 3 Conn Smythe trophies. He won them in 3 different decades. So again, you're talking a Hall of Fame career that carried him from his rookie season all the way to the 2000s. So again, he won his rookie one in 1986. He won his last one in 2001. So that's a 15-year gap of just pure excellence with goaltending and Patrick Roy. 3 different decades he wins his Conn Smythe in. I just want to talk about some of the performances he put up during those times to win his Conn Smythe Trophy. First one we talked about in 1986, he was just a rookie then. No one knew how great he was going to be then, but he showed it during the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's his rookie season, 1986, became a starter halfway through the playoffs and took them all the way to Stanley Cup. But here's one of the, I want to point out a couple stats each of his Conn Smythe runs. Here's one for you. In 8 of the 20 games it took to win the Stanley Cup that he played in, he had 1 goal or fewer in 8 of those games. So 20 games it took him to win the Stanley Cup, 8 games, 1 goal or fewer. That is a remarkable statistic there. Imagine going to a game knowing that, hey, all we got to do is score 1, maybe 2 goals. We're guaranteed to win in 8 out of these 20 games. Patrick Roy, again, as a rookie, just starting up to show you the brilliance that's going to be Patrick Roy for the next 17 seasons, I believe it was. Second Stanley Cup came in 1993, also with Montreal. This is notable because it's the last season a Canadian-based team won a Stanley Cup. Again, 1993 with Patrick Roy in net. Here's the most notable thing about that particular Stanley Cup run: 10 straight overtime wins. That's just a statistics that is absolutely mind-boggling. That Patrick Roy, to show you how clutch he was, just to show you how his mental strength, his willingness to, his wanting to win, doing anything he can to win. 10 overtime games that Montreal went to, and they ended up winning the Stanley Cup. They were not picked to win the Stanley Cup going to the playoffs that year, and Patrick Roy just willed them to another Stanley Cup. Much like in 86 when they weren't picked to win, he got them a Stanley Cup in 86 as well. So again, 86 and 93 Conn Smythe trophies with Montreal. Performances, again, that I don't think you're going to see ever. 10 overtime wins out of the 16 to win a Stanley Cup. That's Patrick Roy at his finest. And his last Stanley Cup came in 2001 and is also his last Conn Smythe Trophy. I think people forget that he won the Conn Smythe that year, because that was a year Ray Bourque, after 21 seasons in the NHL, was on the team and won the Stanley Cup. Everyone remembers Joe Sakic just taking the cup from Gary Bettman, handing it right to Ray Bourque. But people forget, during that run, it was Patrick Roy throughout the whole playoffs. And he outdueled Martin Brodeur. Again, Hall of Fame goaltender Martin Brodeur in Game 7. Just a fantastic series to watch. It's worth going back to watch if you're a goalie fan, watching the highlights of those series. But against Martin Brodeur, again, another legendary goaltender, arguably also in that conversation, the best goaltenders ever. In the finals against him, he had a 1.58 goals against average. He had a .938 saves percentage in that finals against Martin Brodeur. Some other records just of note: 247 games played, most ever by a goalie in the Stanley Cups. He also has the highest amount of wins ever in the Stanley Cup playoffs with 151 wins, and he's got a winning percentage of .616. So again, when you're talking about legends of hockey, you're talking about the Conn Smythe as it relates to goaltenders. This is your person, this is your goalie, this is your benchmark, this is what everything else is measured against. Patrick Roy, I'll say it again, 3 Conn Smythe trophies for 2 different teams in 3 different decades. That's why Patrick Roy is called by many the greatest goaltender in the world. Hey, I hope you had some fun talking about the Conn Smythe, talking about the goaltenders that have been a part of it, all the legends of hockey that have won the Conn Smythe Trophy as goaltenders. And I hope you enjoyed a little history lesson as well with it. Remember, get better, and you got this.